out with one of my favorite characters, Sophia Petrillo. How many of you love her? Yep. So, right in her words, picture it, Brooklyn, New York, 1989. My mom just had me. And just like any first-time mom would be, she's very excited. So she says to her mom, "Tell my in-laws to pass out the sweets." And my grandmother really nicely, in a sweet way, broke it to her that the sweets are only distributed if it's a boy. So right from the get-go, I had the marks against me, right? Born with the wrong gender. But that's okay, because that led me to who I am today. And what I learned very quickly is that as soon as you're born, there's a script that's been handed to you of who the world thinks that you need to be. For me, that looked like being too brown, too covered, too Muslim. And then on the flip side, it was too loud, too ambitious, too opinionated for my Southeast Asian community. So I had to tone it down, right? And live within a box. And this is what I call the good girl blueprint. How many of you can relate to having a good girl blueprint that was handed to you? Yep. Yes. And it's a rough way to start out, isn't it? Because that's the reason why I'm standing up here and talking to you about finding your voice. Say that to a man. You need to find your voice. What are you talking about? And then very quickly, I learned that my superpower was actually having the audacity to ask questions. Okay? Something so simple. I used to think everybody did it until I discovered it was a me thing. I'd walk up to anybody, just ask a question that I was just dying to ask. One day, walking back from a full day of content marketing world, it's my boss and I, we're going back to the hotel, we're tired, we don't want to put our smiles on, our feet hurt. And guess who's walking beside us? Joe Polizzi, the godfather of content marketing, who also puts on Content Marketing World. They're like, oh man. And you know what? I said hello. Despite how tired I was and whatever I was feeling, and I really hated walking back to the hotel where we could just Uber, but cost cutting, right? You find any ways that you can do that. And that started a relationship with Joe. I call him my millionaire friend who opened doors for me. I know y'all want one, but back off, he's mine. And then I picked up on something. All I had to do was go ask the dying questions that I had been wanting to ask, that I couldn't necessarily find people or like in the right time, in the right place. And when I did see somebody who looked like a person that could answer that question, I was going to take it upon me and go do that. Have a conversation. Because conversations are free most of the time. And I've done this to like Trevor Noah, Mindy Kaling, yeah, the jaws are dropping. So many famous people, okay? Because it's just a question, it's just a conversation. And one day, I was attending Business Communicator Summit, and I saw this woman. She was like authenticity right in front of my face. She had this jacket on with all these markings. You saw the jacket this morning when she spoke to you, and she mentioned me. And I said, you know what? I had such a bad job interview. I'm gonna go talk to her. And I think the question was something like, how are you still able to be yourself, but be in such a leadership position? Which I know threw her off guard. She said, well, what are you talking about? Because that's a very loaded question that you just don't go ask that to anybody. But I was having a crisis. I was born with a couple of crises, right? So that set the stage. And from then on, it developed a mentorship relationship with her. And I'm like, huh. So if you don't have access to certain things, you just gotta go ask for it. You just have to start a conversation and go find it. That was my takeaway. But what led me there? Audacity. And so that conference turned out to be such a great moment in time for me, because as I went through life, had my girls, was like, Lori, we need to talk about mat leave. I'm facing this when I'm going back now. I thought it was gonna be easy. Or Lori, I've been laid off now. Lori, XYZ. And then Lori would shine her amazing wisdom, lift me, and say, go do great things. I need more of that. Where do I find that? And so let's go backwards a little bit to that interview that I told you about and why it left me angry, depressed, shaken. The type of interview that kind of makes you question your life and say, what are we doing here? I had a friend call me up. I took your resume and I created a job description just for you. Gee, thanks. Wrong timing, right? And so I'm like having this talk with him. I'm like, I really appreciate what you're doing here, but I'm just not ready for a change. I don't want to ruffle feathers. I finally got this 9 to 5 thing down. Okay. And he's like, I talked you up to my boss, man. You got to come through. You have to apply. I literally took your resume, right? Okay, fine. I'll do it. First interview, easy peasy. It's with him. So it's two friends talking back and forth. I'm like, this is actually pretty cool. I don't have to put on an act. Like, I can just go in there and talk to him just the way I am. And so maybe this is a good thing. He says, the next step is to talk to the owner of the firm. Okay, great. He's gonna love you because I've already told him all about you. He's been following you. It's gonna go great. At this point, I'm thinking I'm gonna change jobs because this is a slam dunk waiting to happen. How many of you are with me? Like, yeah, it sounds pretty straightforward. Wrong. I walked into a 2-hour interview with the owner of the firm who had already decided I wasn't going to get the job. But still went ahead with the interview so it didn't sound like he was undermining my friend, who was the general manager of said firm. And some of you are probably like, yes, that's tough, but what's the big deal? It was the advice that he decided to unleash on me within those 2 hours. It went a little bit like this. My glasses were a sign of overconfidence. My handshake was too firm. My skin tone is already brown, so people are intimidated by me. And I just come off having a large presence. So I need to work on that. In the beginning, it sounded like this guy wants to help. It's mentorship in a way. Because he very quickly was like, you're amazing. I have so many friends in the city that would love to have you at their firm, at their agency. I just don't think this is a great fit for you. You're capable of more than this. You get where I'm going with that? Okay. He thinks I'm great. He just thinks maybe I'm gonna waste my potential here. I respect that. Until the rest of it came along. And then I was left confused, heartbroken, and just questioning, can I not be myself? Really what he was trying to say to me in that moment was that I had to dilute my power. Right? When he was telling me that my presence is large. I haven't heard any woman come up to me and say, your presence is large. Like, nobody, that's such a man thing to say. So naturally, when I went up to Lori, she could tell that it was a very loaded question and something has triggered it. And then she's like, well, let's have a conversation, okay? He went as far as to say that my career was plateauing because of all of this in my 30s. And I'm like, how's my career plateauing in my 30s? That's not a good sign for moving forward. And the thing about it is, nobody tells the loudest man in the room to soften his voice. I've never seen that happen. So how is that fair?
It's not.
It's not. Thank you. It's not. It's really unfair. Which leads me to audacity, okay? There are 2 definitions in the dictionary. Anyone else? Yeah, I bet you know. She's heard this talk before. Shooter. The first definition is the willingness to be bold. Okay? The second definition is rude or disrespectful behavior. And the funny thing is, him and I were both being audacious in our own way, weren't we? Him in a bad way, and I was practicing it in a great way. I was going out there. I was willing to make a bold move.
Those are conflicted.
Yes, absolutely. You see my struggle. We're gonna get to that in a bit. My definition is that audacity is the refusal to shrink and the permission to be bold. Okay? It's us going out there and saying, I refuse to play it small. And that's why I'm gonna give myself permission to be bold. Okay? How many of you wanna do that?
Yeah.
And I bet you don't even know it. And you're probably already being audacious. You just need to sprinkle some more of that on there. And that leads me to one of the problems that we face as women. We're always waiting. Even some of the conversations that I've had today went something like, I was waiting for the right time. I was waiting to feel ready. I was waiting until somebody would invite me to that table, to that room. And I think Lori said it, that sometimes people are waiting for us. And we don't even realize it because we're thinking in here. And that leads me to the messy middle. Each and every one of you have had that script handed to you, whatever you call your blueprint of who the world thought you needed to be versus who you really are. And sometimes we just need to look within and own the messy middle. The middle's not great. The world sets us up to focus on the start and on a happily ever after, which only happens in Disney movies, right? Because in real life, it's a roller coaster. You have ups and downs, okay? You have different seasons. Ray touched on that. You have different seasons. And so with the messy middle, the thing that I want to ask you, how many of you, and you don't have to say it, just raise your hand. How many of you have a bucket list of things you want to do? Or one day I'm going to try doing XYZ. Every single one of us. Right? Now ask yourself what's keeping you from actually doing it. I'm sure in your head you have 5 other reasons or more. And you're like, oh, not right now. The time's not right. I don't really have the resources around me. I don't know the right people around me. We have such a long list of reasons. And the biggest one is like, I'm just not ready. I wasn't ready to get laid off. A year after my twins, literally a week before their first birthday party, and we went big on that party. They rolled in a Lamborghini, guys. Yeah, set up for failure for every other birthday. But life happens. Things happen to you where you were like, I wasn't ready. So why are we constantly telling ourselves, like, oh, I'm not ready? Maybe you'll never be ready. Maybe you just have to take a step. If I take another one, I'll fall off the stage. And that brings me to the point that I'm trying to make here. We all need to think about the wish list that we've been putting off later, hoping that later will come sooner, but it's later. And we need to realize that being in the middle of it, being in the thick of life, right? We live life in the middle. Being in the middle of it is actually our power source, instead of being the problem. A lot of times everybody says, oh, I got stuck in the middle. Well, because you got stuck in the middle, you found a way to pivot. You maybe found a way to move past a challenge. You maybe have to think outside the box. So the middle isn't this horrible place to be in. It's where a lot of good happens. A lot of great ideas. My middle, which we're going to talk about, started with the layoff and then really allowed me to think hard about what did I want in life. Did I want to rinse and repeat this cycle of not really fitting at the table, not being given a seat at the table? And the thing about the blueprint, you're like, what was that blueprint for me? For me, it was like, always follow what elders have to say. Be respectful. Don't be loud. Don't be too opinionated. Be ambitious, but there's a limit. You have to also prioritize family. Family always comes first. Have dreams, but they need to stay within this boundary. Okay? I thought it would go away when I got older, except it put on a blazer. And very quickly it was, don't undermine your boss. Don't speak up too much in meetings. Do your work, and hopefully that's gonna get you a promotion, just like Lori said. Right? Some of us just think, if I just do my work, that will be enough. And at home, growing up, the grandmother that told my mom that there would be no sweets because I was a girl ended up becoming one of my fiercest protectors. My dad, whose own mom, was taught that if you have a son first, he becomes your backbone, defended my existence to the world by saying she's my son and my daughter. And in turn, I internalized that and became his backbone to show the world that gender doesn't matter. A girl can also support her father. But in the process, there was a lot of messy middleness going on. There was pain and then pride, dreams and reality. And in marketing, my field, I say vision and execution. There's a lot of messy middleness there that gets lost in translation. And so as I grew up, there was a brick after brick that people kept adding. And one thing was clear, that I had to look within to figure out how to move forward and not follow the script that I had been given. Okay? And the thing about all of this is, it is so interesting to live between too much and not enough. And I know every single one of you can relate. Where you're too much for these spaces, but you're not enough for these spaces. You're too much for the spaces that raised you, but not enough for maybe professional spaces or other types that you're trying to progress into. Y'all, this was supposed to be a funny talk, but y'all are serious. So my messy middleness, I would spell that out. 2 Muslim on one end, 2 American on the other. My favorite thing to do is to tell my mom to go back to her country. Because I was born here. That does not land well. I don't encourage anybody to try that at home. If you have an immigrant mother, it does not land well. You will learn the shoe. In my professional life, I was strategic and creative. And then that was a problem because I had to choose one, which I couldn't. Because what I learned later on was I'm very equally right-brained and left-brained. Okay? Yes, we need more of those people. I should just start a group. And then the most recent one is mom and CEO. Can't be both. You have twins? Oh, honey, you're gonna need to be a housewife. I don't have a bone in my body that says housewife. Ask my husband, he's right back there. And so through this whole journey, I've learned one thing very clearly. I never had a seat at the table. The Pakistani table, the American table, the whatever table. Okay? So I had to build my own table. I realized this a little too late. I was 35, I'm 36 now. But it came because I think motherhood changes you in ways that you don't even imagine. And I very quickly realized this is why the entrepreneurial spirit that everybody kept talking about was within me. Most importantly, I didn't have a choice but to be my authentic, unapologetic, audacious self. Because I had 2 little girls watching. And the day I found out I had girls, I cried. I wasn't sad. I was like, oh, this is gonna be tough. I was like, I've raised my younger brother before. That was easy. He wasn't born with this big blueprint. My grandmother used to say all sorts of stuff. He's a boy. He could get away with that. And I'm sure you've heard of that too. And so the biggest thing for me is I cannot make space for their dreams if I don't go for mine.
Yes.
Which is what I think you, all of you, regardless of if you have kids or not, have to think about. And the result from that was within 1 year, revenue growth of 600%, more than that, by taking my business full time. When it had been a side gig for 12 years, because I was waiting for the right time. And I look back at that number, and I still can't believe it. How was that possible? Like, I did that. But it's because I owned the messy middle, and I said, you know what, enough is enough. And a lot of times I get asked, how did you do it? What's the secret formula? Okay, so I'm gonna give you my 3 E's. Exclude. You're gonna exclude anything and everything that doesn't align with where you're at. That could be energy. I had a lot of people giving me the wrong kind of energy. That could be something that you're doing, right? We need to find what makes sense for us. When we move into establish after we exclude, which means, for me, finding my voice, finding my lane, finding what actually works for me after I've excluded everything that doesn't. Y'all following? Last, don't I look good as a superhero?
Oh.
I'm like, she's very muscular, I'm not. Evolve. Because what naturally happens is when you exclude all the things that don't make sense for the path that you're on, and you establish what does, you have to evolve. It forces a change, okay? It forces us to think about new ideas and new ways that we can do things and new rooms that we should be in. This journey with excluding, establishing, evolving for me allowed me to find mentors, allowed me to find resources, allowed me to find the type of friends that I want to be around that also have a very annoying laugh like I do. Very timely, Angie. In all of it, you have to figure out what makes sense for you. We spend too much time fitting into the box. We spend too much time talking a certain way, looking a certain way, walking a certain way. But what I've learned is the more authentic that you are, the more you gain momentum in life. For me, one businesses became two. I now have the type of life that actually fits my needs. And my girls get to watch me on social media. I mean, they're not on there yet, but still. Like in the news, or they get to watch mom go out there and do the things that she wants to do, when the women before me didn't really get to. And so if that requires us to build a new table, build the new table. Create that space. Give so we can gain. Invite others in. And lift people along the way. Maybe your authenticity inspires others. Like all of the people that come to me now and say, how are you doing this? How's it all working? And they're expecting this elaborate response, and I'm sitting there going, I don't know, I'm just being myself. It seems to be working. It seems to be different. Instead of asking, what am I going to lose in the process? Because some of you are probably already thinking that. There's a, yeah, but if I do that, the word but just finds its way in there. Instead of saying, what am I going to lose? Ask yourself, what am I going to gain? Okay? Because if I hadn't done that in life, I already had the checks against me. I was too much, not enough, too much, not enough. And if I would have taken that and internalized it, I wouldn't be standing in front of you right now. So we need to look at ourselves in the mirror and think about what are maybe 2 or 3 small things that you can change in your life right now to move towards that wish list that you have that keeps waiting. Just how I decided to go up to Lori and say, this isn't working, something's not working. I know I'm not broken, but the system keeps thinking or making me feel like I am. So how do we change this? And when we say finding your voice, it's there inside. You're not really looking for it. Because what keeps happening is we keep trying to mold ourselves into the spaces that we're in instead of shining. That's why I'm wearing sequins today. Shining the way that you really should be. When you walk into work, you don't leave the mom behind. You don't leave the wife behind. You don't leave the daughter behind. All of that comes with you to work. They're not coats or capes that we can just take off. And with that, just like I did for my girls, if the world doesn't pass out sweets for you, you pass out your own damn sweets.